Welcome to the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Lace up those boots and sling on the pack for a romp through trails, short and long. With your host and Renaissance man, Doc. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail. I'm Doc, and this is the John Freakin' Muir Pod. Let's start off with a reminder. If you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guests. Similar to last week's guest, our guest today also crossed paths with me out in the Sierras, but I was awake when it happened this time. I knew from our brief encounter and conversation that I needed to have them come on the podcast and share their stories. So welcome to the pod, Brandon, Jennifer, and Maggie Brough.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good. We are recovered since we saw you out on the trail. It's been a couple weeks and we're getting back to our normal life. Maggie started first grade 4 days after we got off Mount Whitney. So.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. What a wonderful way to end the summer. And that last day coming off of Whitney and heading down. Did you guys go into Whitney Portal?
Yep.
We did. She did 16 miles that day because of the smoke. So
yeah.
We didn't want to sleep in it, so we just decided to do 7 extra miles.
7 extra miles, yeah.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Matt and Maggie were our friends. And they shared a campsite for us to eat dinner. Yeah. We ate our lunch. I mean, that was actually our late lunch.
Yeah, we ate lunch before we headed down to Whitney Portal because it was a long 16-mile day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I introduced you as Brandon, Jennifer, and Maggie, but I know at least one of you has a trail name. Do all three of you have trail names?
Only me.
Only you. And Maggie, what is your trail name?
Superhero.
Superhero. Who gave you that trail name?
So when we were going on the Glen Pass, going down from Glen Pass
on the Ray Lake Sloop,
someone said, "I'm going to give you a trail name," and he named me Superhero.
Okay. And at this point, I think it'd be important to point out to our listeners out there who may not be tuning into the YouTube video, how old are you, Superhero?
6.
6 years old. And how long have you been hiking?
Also says this on here.
How long have you been hiking?
I've been hiking for, I think, since I was 2 or 3.
Okay.
Correct.
She was 15 or 16 months on her first backpacking trip.
Yep.
Okay. So you got an early start, and you know what? One day you're going to thank your parents because getting this exposure to the outdoors and having fun like this, that is a setting you up for a lifetime of outside adventure.
Yep, exactly. She did the Tour de Mont Blanc when she was 3, and Ray Lake Sloop, and then went from there. So it's been quite a resume for a kid who's only 6.
Nice. Now, have you guys listened to the podcast before?
We have.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are familiar with a regular feature that we do called the Pro Tip Insight of the Week. And that's towards the end of the episode, I will turn to you and ask you, what bit of wisdom can you share with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better? So don't be surprised when we get there. And you know what? I will poll each of you so you can each have your own separate pro tip.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And hey, another feature we've been doing this season is the Must Bring Gear Review, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company, Outdoor Vitals. And here's how it works. If you were to let a stranger pack your bag with pretty much generic gear for a multi-day hike, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? And if you've got a particular brand for that specific piece of gear, even better. So guys, what is your must-bring piece of gear? And we can start with any one of you, including Superhero. She wants to tell us her favorite piece of camping equipment out there.
What's your favorite thing to bring on a backpacking trip?
Astronaut ice cream.
Astronaut ice cream, freeze-dried ice cream.
Okay. Very important to have some astronaut ice cream out there. Yes.
Our snack game is strong.
Okay. What other snacks do you bring?
I like bring chocolate and another one is I had twinkies on the second night and ding dongs on the third.
Twinkies and ding dongs.
I think those were first time she had ever had either of those things.
Yeah. So her gear all involves sugar, but that's, important.
And I also had a stroop waffle. So there was this really, really, really dusty forest with almost all of them were burnt trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I just stopped on a rock and ate a stroop waffle.
Stroop waffle. Honey stinger waffles.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, all of those snacks, that helps you get through the hard parts.
It does.
Yeah. And we shared a campsite with Matt and Maggie, and I got to play chess.
Lots of shout outs for Matt and Maggie.
Okay.
My piece of gear would be earplugs. I don't sleep without earplugs on the trail at all. And I don't think it's something that someone would ever think to put in my bag. But if I don't have it, I don't sleep. And if I don't sleep, I get grumpy and I don't hike well. So earplugs, they're lightweight, they're easy to fit in, and important for me.
And Brendan, we all know that if the wife isn't happy, nobody's happy. So.
I when we went on our first backpacking trip together was in Colorado. She woke up the first night and said she didn't sleep. I said, well, we climbed up this mountain. You carried all this stuff. How could you not be tired? And she said, I just heard things walking around the tent. I'm like, yeah, that happens.
It's noises I can't do.
So is that why you wear the earplugs, so you don't hear the
I don't want to hear anything.
You don't want to hear anything. Okay.
When I'm sleeping, I always snuggle with my little stuffy coconut shoes about this tall and about this thick.
Yeah, she has a little bear that she brings. So I have earplugs.
It's
She
a
has a
white
stuffed animal.
bear, and he has a red bow tie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's your gear?
So I was thinking about this, and I really like my sun gloves, my outdoor research sun gloves. And I think it's something that has really come on in the last 5-10 years. I know that when I started wearing them, it was kind of a weird thing to be wearing them. But, with hiking poles, your hands are up and getting so much sun exposure. And I think just more broadly, I tend to wear long sleeves and long pants no matter where we are, even if it's 100 degrees out, because I just don't want to mess with the sunscreen or the bug juice. Mm-hmm. It's better for, leave no trace, and it just makes things easier for me. And I don't get that affected when I'm hiking in really hot weather and have long sleeves on, don't have to worry about thorns or whatever. So yeah, I think sun gloves as a extension of kind of full coverage clothing.
Yeah, totally agree. I wear long pants and long sleeves when I'm out there. That's just, you have to worry about very little sunscreen or bug spray. I did just finish, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, with the hands peeling from the trip in the Sierras. So might have to get some of those.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, usually at this point, we kind of go into your background and origin story and kind of where you grew up, but I'm going to save that for the moment. And I want to ask some questions of Maggie specifically. So Maggie, I want to ask you, do you like hiking and why do you like hiking?
I do like hiking, and I like it because you get to see pretty stuff. And I like watching mommy swim in lakes. And I sat on the coldest lake on the trip. And I also named the little unnamed lake right next to Precipice Emerald because it was green when I saw it. Kind of emerald green. And her birthstone is emerald.
That's very nice.
Mine's is aquamarines and his is teal.
Okay. And which lake was the coldest?
What was the coldest lake?
Precipice
on the High Sierra Trail?
That was actually
yeah.
The only one I sat on, and it was the coldest one.
It's a deep one. No shallow parts. Those are my favorite kind of lakes, the ones that go from rock to deep, and then you don't have to see any of the muck. So, yeah. And
Jennifer, did you do a lot of swimming in lakes this last trip?
I do. So I try to swim in every lake if we have time. But I got a leech on my foot in Moraine Lake. First, I didn't really know those were a thing in the High Sierra, and now I do. And I will avoid warm, shallow lakes forever because it was unpleasant. But yeah, that kind of dampened my swimming spirit. But yeah, I do swim a lot.
So she like had a mosquito bite, and then the leech bit into it more.
Yeah, we don't really need to gross out the whole audience with my leech story, but anyway.
Double whammy. Wow.
Yeah.
And Maggie, do you tell your friends about your hiking trips, and what do they say?
Oh, they were embarrassed about the giant pancakes.
They were embarrassed about it or impressed?
They wanted it. They were embarrassed.
Jealous.
Yeah.
Giant pancakes. Where were the giant pancakes?
Oh yeah, tell them where the giant pancake was.
At Whitney Potato.
Oh.
And they're so big, we think we still have some.
In the freezer. Yeah.
We took them out.
You guys went the pancake route at Whitney Portal. I went the burger route, burger and beverage.
Yeah.
Well, I told her about the pancakes because, like most backpackers, she thinks with her stomach. And I think on day one and every day thereafter on the High Sierra Trail, she was talking about how much she was looking forward to this gigantic pancake. So we had to deliver.
We had to get it.
Oh, she's a true thru hiker because that's what thru hikers talk about is food. I mean, that's food and bodily functions. Those are the two topics on the trail.
Yep.
Can you see my adorable pants?
I can't see your adorable pants. Oh, nice. Are those pink with spots on them?
No, they're shiny hearts.
Shiny
You want
hearts.
to tell them what your shirt says? It says hike your own hike.
Perfect. Thru hiker.
Yep.
Very good. Maggie, what's your superhero, what is your favorite place to hike so far? What's your favorite place?
My favorite place to hike so far is actually
Relic Sloop.
Yeah, why is that your favorite?
Because I just like it a lot.
Anything in particular about it, or just?
Well, there's something really funny. Actually, two things that are really funny. When we got to the top of Glen Pass, Daddy was stirring hot chocolate with a toothbrush. And
I hope it wasn't with the brushy part of the toothbrush.
Was it the handle end or the brush?
Handle.
Okay. Ooh, thank
Then
goodness.
you would be eating hot chocolate the next time you brush your teeth. Actually, probably chocolate milk.
And then what was the other funny thing?
And then Daddy overboiled it and exploded all over the rock.
Yeah, not my finest LNT moment.
We cleaned it up as best we can, but if there's hot chocolate on Glen Pass, that's his fault.
We know where it came from. All right.
Blame him.
Okay. Hey, let's back up a little bit and let's talk about both of your backgrounds, where you grew up and what kinds of sports and hobbies you were involved in, and was the outdoor experience part of growing up for the two of you, or was that something you guys came to later in life?
So I'll start because my history is shorter, and then I'll get Maggie situated here. I grew up doing outdoor activities, but not involving backpacking or hiking. Our family was a big water skiing family and snow skiing and that type of stuff and car camping. But I don't think I ever went on a hike, and I definitely did not know what backpacking even was when I was a kid. So I did not get into it until I met Brandon, and we met at UCLA. We can go through that whole story. But my first backpacking trip wasn't until I met him. But definitely outdoorsy and athletic, but just not in the backpacking sense.
Oh, I like your story so far. My son Jukebox, who's an occasional host on this podcast, he went to UCLA and he met his fiance at UCLA. So some
the best
similarities
place to meet people.
That's right. That's right.
And at school today, my friend Finn standed on my lap.
Oh no! All right.
Wow.
It hurted.
Do you have anything else you want to say to Doc and everyone before you go do some other stuff while Daddy tells his story?
Can I show you my medal?
Yeah, what does that medal say? Oh, it says High Sierra Trail. Yeah.
So when we got off the trail, the owner of hikermedals.com sent her a medal for her hike. So personalized medal. So a little plug for his cool medals. But it's engraved. Anyway, can you say bye to Doc and everyone?
Bye.
Bye, superhero. Thanks for joining us.
We'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I'm the one with the longer history.
Okay.
So my dad is very much a hiker and enjoyer of nature, and my mom is very willing to go along with what he wants to do. So I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't know of John Muir and Yosemite and the Sierras and all that. In fact, there's a picture of me teething on one of those backpacking harnesses when I was a couple months old in Yosemite Valley. So it started quite young for me, and I had access to I grew up in Southern California, had access to the Santa Monica Mountains. That they were basically in my backyard, and I was in Boy Scouts and did a lot of that. But the thing that really sealed it was when I was 11, I went with my family and some other folks to Admiralty Island in Alaska. So Admiralty Island is located in southeast Alaska, in between Sitka and Juneau. And I believe that this is right. I think there are more grizzly bears on the island than humans. There's just a small Tlingit village there. And we did a 8-day canoe trip, canoeing and portaging and camping and whatnot. And, just through pristine wilderness. And I think it ruined me for, eating salmon and crab and blueberries. I mean, just all these things just fresh. And, it was pretty much a religious experience. It helps that one of the people there was a pastor, but it really was, going out and I think that's probably as seminal of a moment. And I've always just, loved it. But I think that it really kind of kickstarted when I met Jennifer. She was a runner, a cross country runner, and she blew out her knee, water ski accident. And so I think that one thing that we could do together that didn't hurt her knee, but still kind of fed her interest in going far and having a goal and that type of thing was backpacking. And so we started doing that pretty early in our relationship. And we have done, we've hiked all around the country, in some cases the world, and now Superhero's all about it, and she's dragging
She drives it though. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I was kind of grumbling about doing a long trip this summer, and she was like, what are we doing for a big summer trip? Which is what she calls whatever hike we do. And I was like, I thought that was on pause, COVID. And she's like, no, we're going. So
that's
it's cute.
Funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
Brandon, I have a few follow-up questions. Actually, for both of you, I have some follow-up questions. One is that, when we grow up, we look up to our parents, but there are moments where we say, you know what, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna carry it forward, and I want to replicate that with my family. And there are some things you're like, I would never do this with my family. I would never say something like that. I would never act that way. And so you kind of learn what to do and what not to do, just as an example. But it's very clear to me that with you being in the backpack harness at 2 months old, I mean, this is something that you said, I'm gonna carry this forward and have the same experience for my kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we all think back and say, oh, I'm going to do this better. Mm-hmm. In the end, sometimes there's just things that are kind of built into your DNA, so to speak. And a love for the outdoors was absolutely something that, I grew up enjoying, not always backpacking. But we didn't fly many places. It was always road trips to, the Southwest or the Rockies or, up to Canada or whatever. That was a staple of me growing up. And I remember going to Yosemite once when I was probably, 9 or 10, ended up buying this 6-foot wide panoramic of Yosemite Valley and putting it up in my room. And it stayed in my room all the way until I moved out for college. So that was the image I went to bed looking at every single night of my entire childhood, and the thing that I woke up to looking at. So yeah,
you soak that up into your soul.
pretty much.
Never leave you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you grew up with an awareness of trails out there and backpacking and the longer trails. I'm always curious to hear people's reactions of the moment when they realized there was something out there that was, 200 miles long that you could hike, or even, 2,600 miles long with the Pacific Crest Trail. So, Jennifer, I mean, when I know you didn't kind of grow up with that, but at some point you had to realize, wait, you can actually do this. And what was your thought process? You remember when that moment happened?
I do. So, Brandon always comes to me and says, I was thinking, or I had an idea, and I always brace myself because I always say it's convoluted and complicated and it involves spreadsheets. He's an engineer. It's like a whole thing. And so he was telling me about the John Muir Trail. We were married at this point, but it was not that long into our marriage. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea. Let's not do that again. And I really don't like admitting this, but because it's cliche, but I read the book Wild. It was well before the movie, so
okay,
let's not give Reese Witherspoon the credit. But I read the book, and it was one of those kind of stubborn. If she could have hiked most of the PCT and she didn't know what she was doing, I can do that. And there was a lot that spoke to me about, taking a break from the being connected and just like finding yourself out on the trail. And I promise this was a long time ago before it became the thing that everyone says. But and so I went back to him and I said, that John Muir Trail thing that you were talking about, I think that's the part she skipped in Wild because it was too snowy, but I'm more interested in hearing about it. And so then we started talking about it and got into it.
Yeah, she was reading the book, and I feel like there was a certain the portion of the book where where she loses her boots down the mountain, right? Mm-hmm. And like every couple pages, Jennifer will stop, and I don't know what I was probably watching TV or something. And she's, can you believe what this person did?
Yeah.
She, and she would recount, some stupid thing. And
so it was essentially stubbornness that I could do it better that made us start backpacking, which it all worked out. I met Cheryl Strait at an REI book signing once, and I said, I appreciate your story, kind of inspired me, and she was very gracious about it. And it's kind of cool to see how her story has kind of taken off and become such a big thing, because it really was, the story of someone who had no idea what they were doing and really had no business being out there. But it's inspired a lot of people.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I think that's part of the reason why I do the podcast. One is for me to keep connected to the outdoor adventure experience and talk to so many, diverse and cool people out there who are doing just incredible things. And the other is to say, look at what these people are doing, and hear where they started and their background, and the adversity they had to face. And if they can do it, we can all do this.
Yeah, it's really true. We were listening to some of your episodes with people who got started during COVID, and I know that there's a lot of backlash against those types of overcrowding the trails and not following LNT. But it was really neat to hear how it clicked for them in a way that might not have happened had we not had the pandemic. So I thought that was cool, and it made me kind of take my snobby trailness a little bit down a notch by hearing their story, because it was frustrating when you go out and the trails are packed because that was the only place to go. But now I'm like, wait a minute, that's actually pretty cool that everyone's out there. So I appreciate those stories.
And you two, I have to thank you, because one of the coolest things that happened out in the Sierras this past summer is I was handing out some stickers for the John Freaking Muir podcast for people's bear canisters. And I think when I came to you, I'm not sure if I had any stickers left or not. But
no.
We were at the end of your trip.
Yeah, we were at the end. But I saw you guys marching along, and I said, oh, I need to talk to these people. And so I told you that I had a podcast. And one of the coolest moments was when Brendan says, oh yeah, Brandon or Brendan? Brandon, sorry.
Yep.
Brandon,
you have to work on a trail name for me, man.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Brandon said, oh yeah, my wife listens to your podcast, which, that was a moment. So thank you. Now, Jennifer, you said you grew up water skiing?
I did, yeah.
You grew up in Southern California?
Orange County, yeah.
Orange County. Okay, where would you go water skiing?
Lake Havasu.
Oh, yeah.
We were Colorado River people.
Mm-hmm.
And we were go out there a lot of times each summer, and boat would break down, car would break down in the 118-degree weather, and but we had a blast. I learned to ski when I was 4. Started on my dad's skis, and I would climb up from his skis onto his shoulders and ski around the lake waving at everyone, just like attracting all this attention. And it's funny, when we're out on the trail with Maggie, as you probably saw, everyone stops and talks to her and says, "Oh my gosh, how old are you? How old are you? How old are you?" And it just brought me back to my water skiing days when I was 4. And people would say, "How old is she?" Because I was always very tiny, and they would think, what's that baby doing water skiing? So it was cool. But yeah, my outdoor activities was a lot of water skiing.
Okay, very, very good. I also grew up water skiing.
You did?
Spent some time at Havasu. Spent a lot of time at Nacimiento, which is a little further north, Northern California.
You live up near Castaic, don't you?
I live up by Castaic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was on the UCLA water ski team, go Bruins, and our practice lake is Castaic, so we were up there all the time. But
okay. So for our listeners out there keeping track of John freaking Muir trivia or doc trivia, he grew up water skiing, learned to shore start at Lake Nacimiento. That was a very fun experience. The first day was nothing but fall on your face every time. But second day, just stepped right into it. It was awesome. So very, very, very impressive.
Only the old school people know how to shore start, because the skis, your feet are stuck in them so much that you can't even do it anymore.
Yeah. For those people out there wondering, what do you mean shore start with water skiing? So you stand in about a couple of feet of water. Yeah. You have one foot on the bottom, and you've got the other foot, your front foot in the ski, and you're kind of holding that foot up so that the ski is level with the water, and you coil up about 3 or 4 coils of rope, and you throw it in front of you, and you say, "Hit it," and the boat takes off, and you watch that rope uncoil real quickly.
Yeah, real quickly
in a very smooth fashion. As the rope becomes taut, you step into the ski, and away you go. Well, the first 40 times I tried that, it was face plant. But second day, mastered it, and it was pretty fun. So
it is fun. That's a real hallmark of a old school good skier, is knowing how to short start.
That's right.
And we always had a boat. My dad will laugh at this. The boat was working probably less than it wasn't working, and so, but for short starting, you need pretty good.
That's a typical boat.
Yeah. But you need it to really be able to hit it. And a lot of times when my sister and I were learning, we'd say hit it, the boat wouldn't hit it, and dragged into the water. But I think it was all a good growth experience growing up like that. Like, we didn't have fancy stuff, but we were really good skiers. So it's nice. Good for us.
Now let's go back just a second. I know you said that Brandon is an engineer.
He is.
Jennifer, what do you do?
I'm an attorney.
An attorney. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Do you have a specific part of the law that you specialize in?
I do. I am an energy regulatory attorney. So I help energy projects from all kinds of solar and wind get their federal permits that they need to operate.
Okay. Very good. I'm not sure if I can use you, but it's good to know.
That's all right, because when people message me on Facebook for legal advice, I just say that I can't help them. So it's actually great.
Perfect. Now, in prepping for the trail, Brandon, with your engineer's mind and spreadsheets, tell me, did you have a specific approach, a special approach to planning the logistics for your trips?
Yeah. So as Jennifer says, I'm a planner, and I think half the enjoyment of these trips is, doing the research and learning all you can. And I think, one thing that's, important, I think, for anyone, wherever you are on the spectrum, and I'm certainly on the spectrum, is that you have to have a combination of being prepared and being flexible. And I think that's especially true being with a kid, right? Because, for the rest of us, I think you have a thing about, the trail doesn't care, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, the kid does. Mm-hmm. And where, she and I, if we're a little short and we need to go an extra 5 miles in the dark, we can handle that. That's not the case for, when you're 6.
Yeah.
And so it's a combination of being prepared so that you can be flexible. But yeah, I have extensive spreadsheets on, all the gear and all the consumables and how much it weighs and who's got what and whose packet's going in. And, I always did it for even, a 2-nighter or whatever, but it really kind of amped up when we did the John Muir Trail in 2013. And so I've basically taken all the work that I did there and I just kind of export into, the High Sierra Trail or the Ray Lake Loop or whatever it is that we happen to be doing coming up. And so she doesn't like any of that planning. She just wants to get and go and know that I've got it all, laid out. And so it's a nice combination between the two of us.
I didn't. The High Sierra Trail was a last minute change of plans because we were supposed to hike up near Tahoe and smoke and other things we didn't. So I said, if you figure out the logistics, I'll hike it. I didn't even look at a map.
That's true of the John Muir Trail.
Yeah.
Too. You didn't even look
I
at a
kind
map.
of understood that went from Yosemite to Whitney. I didn't know what we were getting into. I mean, I figured I'm in shape. He's prepared. We'll get it done. And so I honestly, until we were out on the trail, didn't really know what we were doing because I prefer it that way. I rather I'm game for anything, but I don't want to be in charge of planning any of it. So.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if Brandon wasn't there and didn't do the planning, that you would have done some planning. But knowing that that's his wheelhouse, I mean, you have the luxury of saying, yeah, I'm up for it. Let's go.
We have our roles, and
exactly.
my role is, on the trail. When you hike with people a lot, one person does the cooking, one person puts up the tent. In the same way with the trip planning, like I'm mostly take care of planning the food, but as far as permits and route and everything and gear, that's him.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Brandon. I totally agree that at least half of the fun is the planning, the logistics, and geeking out on all the prep.
Oh, totally.
And also, there is a time and a place for spontaneity.
Yeah.
Kind of ironic
absolutely.
when I put it that way, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Got to be flexible out there sometimes.
Yep.
All right. And in terms of your gear, we didn't talk about pack weights. I'd love to know kind of what are your base weights, including, how much does a superhero carry?
So this is the first time that she's carried anything. So when we did the Ray Lakes Loop when she was 4, it was just, you hike. And then last year when we went basically through the Evolution Valley area of the John Muir Trail through Lamarck Call and Paiute Pass and all that, we said, you don't have to carry anything, but we're going to introduce hiking poles. So she has my old hiking poles. And so this year we said, okay, hiking poles and backpack. And so she's carrying maybe 5-ish pounds. It's basically, she's got a jacket and she's got her water and she's got the group's snacks for the day. So she starts heavy and it, lightens up as we eat more trail mix. Our base weights for the two of us were in the kind of 15 to 18 pound range because it's, our stuff plus, Maggie's stuff. And we're certainly not ultralighters. We're definitely on the, keep the 6-year-old comfortable.
Yeah.
And so,
we carry stuffed animals and I use a pillow and we're not ultralight.
We're not ultralight, but we're not, carrying 60, 70 pounds either. Right. We're probably, fully loaded for the High Sierra Trail. You were probably in the high 30s and I was probably in the high 40s.
Yeah. If you've got a toothbrush handle left to stir your hot chocolate, you're not ultralight.
Yeah. No, that's an extra ounce and a half.
We're not cutting off toothbrush handles.
Yeah.
And she picks up stuff. We're very much telling her, leave it, put this rock down, leave it. We don't carry things out of the trail with us, but we'll come to lunch and realize she has rocks in her backpack or something. And we're like, okay, you got to put those down. You don't need to pick up extra weight along the way. Or she'll ask if she can carry like this huge stick. No, you cannot. But
yeah, everything's more complicated, takes more time with a kid.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from the break, we're going to hear about some of the trips that you two have taken together. And then, what are the complications of adding a child, and what kind of feedback have you received from family, friends, and the community out there? So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. The John freaking Muir Pod is sponsored by Outdoor Vitals, the ultralight backpacking gear company whose mission is to improve the mental, physical, and emotional health of mankind by facilitating impactful outdoor experiences. Outdoor Vitals creates innovative technical products with confidence-inspiring education that empower outdoor ultralight adventurers. Their focus on performance enables you to live ultralight with gear you can actually be confident with. Whether you're looking for an ultralight sleep system, shelter, or pack, or if you're looking for top quality apparel for the trail, you can find it at Outdoor Vitals. Do yourself a favor. Live ultra light. And welcome back. We're talking to Brandon and Jennifer, parents of Superhero, about some of their experiences out there. Let's talk about, and we heard from Brandon about that transformative moment out there with the Alaska canoeing experience. What trips have you taken together as a couple before Superhero came along?
I think we've done a lot. The JMT was the biggest one for a biggest backpacking trip. That was in 2013.
Yeah. How long did that take you?
We did 17 days. And that was my first. How many nights had I? Maybe a two-nighter.
Two-nighters.
I had only done 2 nighters before that, so that was my first through hike and my first long one. And
17
then
days. That's a good clip. Did you go northbound or southbound?
Southbound.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a good pace. I mean, that was a lucky year. It was moderate water and no fires. So these days, I feel like you can't even get through a through hike without some issue, and it was a really good year to do it.
we had, I mean, like you said, the water was at the right level. We had no bugs. The weather was almost perfect throughout.
Yeah.
And 2013, I think with Wild coming out and with Mile and a Half coming out and things like that, there was a huge spike in like the years immediately after us doing the JMT. So we hit it at a great time.
Yeah, that was the year Mile and a Half came out.
Yep.
Right before we left on the JMT, we went to a screening party at the Cliff Bar headquarters up here.
Really?
And I got like really amped to go to it. And now they're just celebrating their 10 years. So it's been a while. But
we were Kickstarter backers of theirs. So official fun fact, we are named in the credits of the movie.
Yeah. But I think that documentary did for the JMT what Wild has done for the PCT. I mean, it's really just created a boom. So
I would agree with that. I had a great time talking to Jason Fitzpatrick on the podcast here.
We ran into him in the valley once. We were having breakfast.
Yeah.
And
he's met Superhero.
Yeah. And I said, I think that guy's from Mile and a Half. And Brandon's like, Jason, like they're best buds. And I'm so embarrassed because like it's such a niche thing, like the through hiking community, but he was super gracious and really nice. So.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Oh, so trips. After that, we did the Inca Trail in Peru. Before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before. Yeah. My concept of time has kind of gone away with COVID. We did the Inca Trail. That was great in 2012. Yeah. That's really interesting because you can't do that trip without a guide or porters. So it's a very different experience because they do everything for you, and they carry the stuff, they set up the tents, they set up the toilets. So it was really different. That was my first introduction to altitude sickness because it's very high and you sleep high and the water isn't good. So I wasn't drinking very much because, they do filter it and they do provide water, but it's not like leading up to the trip when you're traveling through Peru. It's not like you're just going to fill up your water bottle at the tap all the time. You have to buy bottled water, and I wasn't hydrated. So I got pretty sick on that trip, but that kind of got me to understand altitude sickness, do more research on it. I took Diamox on the JMT after that because I was just concerned about it. But ever since then, I've been fine. For me, it's a hydration issue. I'm pretty sure.
So no further experiences with that?
No, that was a one and done in Peru. But yeah.
And you mentioned porters.
I didn't realize it because she's so tough. She just kind of, goes about, and I think there's a time on day 3 or 4, I had very much acclimated, and I was like racing our guide, running upstairs and
you're not carrying a pack, so you're like going for it.
Yeah, and you're just kind of like, no, I'm just going to sit in the corner. And I'm like, that's very much not you. But yeah, it's very disorienting, I think, growing up as a backpacker and carrying everything yourself and taking a lot of pride in that. And so basically the situation is they set up these big old tents, like army tents, big old canvas
ultralight tents.
No.
They're like hotels.
And there's like chairs and tables, and they cook you food, and then they clean it up, and they bring like water for you to wash your hands and whatnot. But then they pack it all up, and most of the porters are like 5'4" and wearing sandals that they made out of old tires, and they will pack up these mammoth backpacks. They're not even backpacks, and they will run ahead over 13,000 foot passes, and they will set up camp. And so you lazily lay behind with the guide, and then you do the hike, and then you pull into camp for lunch, and they have the whole tent all set up. And the kicker is they line up and applaud as you come in, and you're like, I did nothing.
Should be the other way around, right?
I know.
Totally.
It was actually, I felt very uncomfortable by the whole thing. Yeah. We're like very self-sufficient, independent backpackers, and I just felt I wanted to carry the stuff, and I didn't want them cooking for me.
I didn't want to carry that giant tent.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to carry the toilet either. But it was a weird way to backpack. And
wait a second, there was a toilet?
Oh yeah, they had like a toilet with a tent over it. Yeah, like
a toilet seat on a stand,
like those composting toilets.
Yeah. No deuce of spades on the Inca Trail.
No, it was interesting.
It was weird. Yeah, I mean, I understand why they do it. They want to, increase their tourism by having their industry. You have to support their industry by doing it, and they also protect the environment by moderating the number of people. But it was a different experience, and so now when I see people in the Sierra with the mule train, and the mule train is carrying out the tent, the tent and the dining table and all that, I'm like, that's not for me.
See, I was going to make a crack about the use of porters, and then I thought, what? When we crossed paths, that's right when the mule train came by us, Rock
with
Creek
the full-size guitar, full-size guitar, and And
I was talking to them as they were going by, and they're like, we've got dinner ready to go for these people. We've got steaks. I'm thinking that might not be a bad way to go. I don't know.
I know.
It's a different experience.
It's different, yeah.
Right. I think that the backpacker in me wants to be a bit judgy, but in the end, I think I think the ultimate goal is being able to get people out there, and not everybody can schlep 30, 40, 50 pounds on their back 10, 15 miles a day, or whatever it is your pace is. And if it gets more people out there, then good for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you guys ever hear about the high trips by the Sierra Club?
Yeah. I have not done that though.
I have an episode devoted to the high trips by the Sierra Club, and just talk about its origin and the fact that back in the 20s they were doing these excursions for 3-4 weeks at a time out there with people who had no idea about the outdoors, and trying to like exactly like you said, Brandon, trying to get more people out there and exposed to it and experience the great outdoors.
Yep.
And I reached out to Rock Creek Pack Station when we got back, and I left a message. I think I sent some, maybe through social media, saying that I'd love to have somebody come on the podcast and talk about that way of doing the.
I think you should.
Yeah, it's a completely different experience.
I also think it's misunderstood too. Mm-hmm. On the JMT pages, there's a lot of grumbling about the mules and the whole pack station concept, but that trail was built for pack trains, and because of pack trains. And so I think they have a place there too. But I think people get tired of pulling off to the side and the poop and, all that. So
let's not pretend that we don't grumble about
all
that
sure,
too.
We do. But I actually think that's a good idea to talk to them and get their side and the insight of it. I think they have a tough job because a lot of people that encounter them don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And can get themselves in a lot of trouble. Like, we're very cautious with Maggie because the mule train, the person who comes first on the horse will usually direct you exactly where to go and what to do. And Maggie's so small and, you know, can easily not be seen by these big animals or the person riding the big animal. So we try to just get really far away. But I know that they run into experiences where people don't yield to them, or, you know, so
and there was this bubbly woman at the front of one of those mule trains there, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't ask her name or tell her that I had a podcast or anything. So you know, she would have been the perfect spokesperson for
she would have been
Rock Creek. But we'll see if they get back to
get out there again soon.
Right.
Just sit on the JMT. I'm sure you'll find a mule train in a couple minutes.
Gonna wait. Let's see. One of the things I complained about at the end of the John Muir Trail, you know, as I did the final night on the trail with Buddy and Chopper, and we did our thoughts on camera. You know, one of the points I brought up was, you know, where does all the poop come from? I've never seen a horse out here or a mule. In this last trip, I saw quite a few, but it was like, you know, where does this stuff come from?
There's a ton. And at the beginning of the Ray Lakes Loop, when Maggie was 4, she was trying to step around every piece of it. And I was like, look, we got miles to cover. You got to walk. Like, I mean, she would just go like way around everything. And, you know, it's all over the trail. And she was covering her nose. I was like, get over it. It's not getting any better. Just do it. And now she's fine with it. But it was pretty funny.
So let's talk about that a little bit. When did you decide to add superhero to the equation? And you talked a little bit about how you kind of transitioned her in, but you know, walk us through that a little bit.
So I proposed to Jennifer at the top of San Jacinto, and I think that was your second backpacking trip ever.
Yeah.
And basically the strategy was that, you know, I have the car keys and the food and the water. And so, you know, she's going to say yes, right?
Smart.
No, it was actually something that I had done in Boy Scouts and
proposed on the trail.
Yeah, that's awkward.
Yeah, that is awkward.
That trip.
I had done that trip, and so I knew how spectacular it was, and especially for someone who wasn't experienced, you know, people can hate on me for taking the tram, but it's a you know, high bang for the buck type of experience for someone on their second trip. And so basically 10 years later, we took Maggie up there, superhero, when she was, I think, 15, 16 months. And I just carried her the entire way. But sleeping in a 2-person backpacking tent with a 15-month-old is an experience for any parent. You can try it if you like. But basically, every year we set kind of these goals for the family, and it
has a spreadsheet, by the way.
There are many spreadsheets, of course. You know, it's all calculated for you. But a lot of it is, you know, I think that we found in our marriage that, you know, you have a weekend, and if there's nothing on the calendar, it's very easy to sit around and just kind of, you know, sit and watch a football game or, you know, do the same old thing. And we have found that if you set goals, it gives you that little motivation to go out and do something that you're intending to do anyway. So in the first couple years of, you know, Maggie being around, some of our goals were to hike a certain number of miles. And so when she was 1, we hiked, I think, 130 miles or something like that with her. And so we're carrying her the entire time, right? And all day hikes. And then the next year we did, you know, 130 some odd.
And she would start walking more of it.
Right. And, you know, it was just a way for us to spend time as a family, get some exercise, get some fresh air. She, you know, was always so stimulated by, you know, wind blowing in the face or the bird or the tree or whatever. And it was a way for us to, you know, put down the phones and have some dedicated family time. And I think she kind of was attached to that energy of how excited we were to do it. And so she wanted to do it more and started hiking. And so we, you know, did a few other things. But the big one for backpacking, there's a peak. I think it's part of the 6-pack of peaks out here, Mission Peak. And
oh, that's right.
In San Jose.
Where is it?
Fremont. Yeah.
Okay. We have a Mission Peak out here in Santa Clarita, so it's different.
Yeah, different one. Yeah.
The one out here, and it's like 8-mile round trip, and it's probably 2,500 feet of elevation gain, something like that. And she was just a little over 4.
Yeah.
And so she, at that time she would hike a little bit, and then I'd carry her a little bit and back and forth. And we did this day hike, and at no point did she want to get in the backpack. And she went all the way up and all the way down. And we're thinking, on a day hike, she just did a lot of elevation and 8 miles. Like, I think she's ready. And so that's when we did the Ray Lake Sloop.
And we didn't know what to expect for that. So Ray Lake Sloop is 42 miles and includes Glen Pass, which is 12 something.
It's about 12.
And
12.
We didn't know what to expect because we weren't bringing a kid carrier, but we had like a backup kind of emergency carrier just in case for water crossings or whatever. And I thought we'd end up carrying her a lot, or I don't know, or she'd just sit in the middle of the trail and refuse to go, because it's fun to do one day hike, but then when you got to get up the next morning and do it again. But she just powered through that thing. We finished it a day early because she was just going. And that's when she got her trail name, because she was just like motoring up Glen Pass. We got to the top, and Glen Pass is one of the passes on the JMT that people think is the hardest, by the way. And she gets to the top, and I say, "What'd you think?" And she goes, "That was easy.
That wasn't that hard.
That wasn't that hard."
That's what she said about Whitney this morning to me.
Wow.
And so we thought, okay, maybe there's something to this where she can handle this. And that was like the light bulb moment for me anyway, because I was real skeptical. And I'm very wary of pushing her too hard or, making her hate it, because the last thing we want is for her to resent it and not want to go out anymore. So, But like we said, she drives it.
Yeah, we try as much as any parent tries, and I think a lot of parents can say this and don't do a great job of it. We try not to push her to kind of fulfill the dreams of her parents. I think it's, she's the one who's suggesting that we go for a hike, and it's always, she wants the big mountain. I think mostly because she knows that's where the really good snacks are.
Yeah.
That's where she can find the Twinkies and the ding dongs.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
But I think it just snowballed from that trip. And once we knew that she could do the Ray Lakes Loop, the next summer, we were supposed to hike to Muir Trail Ranch and
to meet some friends.
And it was closed for COVID. So we ended up doing a loop through Evolution Valley, which included Lamarck Call, which is 12.9, right? And off trail, 13.8. I don't know. I blocked it out.
And off trail.
It's off trail. And she was 5 at the time. And some of those boulders that she's going over are twice as big as she was. So Brandon would like pick her up, put her on. She'd go to the next one. I mean, it was pretty crazy. She loved that. I never want to go back there again.
It was slow going.
I like a moderate trail. I don't mind climbing, but I hate talus. I don't like big boulder hopping. It's just slow. And she loved it. She really loved that. So
yeah.
High Sierra Trail this summer was the next natural progression, I guess.
Yeah.
But.
Okay. What kind of feedback have you gotten from friends, relatives, the hiking community out there that have encountered her? I mean, I did talk with, I forget the name of the family. Family went on the AT with 6 kids. I'm drawing a blank. I apologize to them right now, but they had.
We listened to that.
They have kids that were, I think, from age 16 all the way down to 2.
Yeah.
And they had people calling Child Protective Services on them.
That.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so is it mostly positive? Have you encountered any negative?
It's a mixed bag. And I would say, so for our family, 100% has been supportive, as long as we have a working GPS communicator. Our first couple trips, we used I don't want to bash them, but we used a spot device and it didn't work several of the nights. And that leads to very nervous grandparents, understandably. And after that, we upgraded to an InReach. And as long as they can get a hold of us and know our progress. I think they have been 100% supportive and very proud of her. So family's been great.
They're great shuttle service.
Oh yeah, they take us, if we need rides. And my dad drove us home from the JMT, and his parents just did the High Sierra Trail drive from Sequoia to Whitney. So they're great.
It was Ben Crawford, by the way. Ben Crawford and his wife Cammie, and their 6 kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that episode, and I can't believe they got CPS called on them.
Yeah.
But I guess for the larger community, I don't think that most of the people that we interact with understand what we do. A lot of people don't even know what backpacking is. They just know car camping, and so they think that we are driving her out to the Sierra and we just car camp. So I don't think they really understand it. So Brandon has made several movies for after each one of our trips. He makes like a small YouTube video.
Yeah, your latest one is awesome, Brandon. That was fantastic.
And that's the only, when friends and family watch those, they say, "Oh, I didn't know you were sleeping outside," or "I had no idea she was doing 10 miles a day." So we haven't gotten a lot of negative feedback, mostly because they don't get it. I'm sure once they see it and they see that she did 16 miles in a day, including Whitney, they're probably grumbling about it. And
Brandon,
I don't blame them.
Brandon, your approach probably isn't the same as mine, because after I get back from a trip and I go to a family function and people see me coming, they immediately avert their eyes. They walk away in the other direction because they know, oh, this guy's going to come talk to us about hiking and his last trip. And he's going to ask if he wants us if we want to watch his YouTube video.
Well, yeah, I'm used to it. I'm an engineer, scientist. And so, people are very polite at cocktail parties and ask, what do you do? And usually I don't answer with what the answer. I say, are you being polite or do you really want to know? Because I could get real nerdy real fast.
and then they glaze over, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But we do have several friends that, we've certainly converted to kind of the adventure backpacking world, and have become almost as obsessive about it as we are. And so we can nerd out with, on any number of details with them, and it's fun. But, I think among our friends, Superhero is older than most of our friends' kids. And so they're not at a place where they're doing these types of things yet. And so for people who get it, they seem to be at least feign interest and seem to be pretty impressed. But we haven't received a whole lot of pushback. I think partially we don't really put it out there that much.
Yeah.
All of our social is all private pretty much, and I make these videos much more for Maggie than anything. Like, that's hard work on mom and dad, and I want her to remember it. And also as this point of pride for her. So they're much more home videos than, trying to become, the next YouTube sensation.
Yeah. We actually, this last trip, she got a lot of attention from people that happen to be out there. I mean, a lot of people asking, how old are you? And because on a lot of trips, you're close enough to, the car that they probably think she's day hiking, or it's not that impressive. But when you're on Whitney, there's no easy way to get there, right? And so she got a ton of attention that day. And then we can get into this too, but there was a quadriplegic filming a documentary about his hike that summited at the same time.
And I think you're having Jack on, or just had him on.
Yeah, he comes on he was on, when people are listening to this, he was on last week. And
okay.
I wanted to thank you for kind of putting me in touch with him, because if it wasn't for your social media posts and his comments and me understanding what happened there and reaching out to him, that wouldn't have happened.
Oh, I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
But so we were on the summit at the same time, and they were filming a documentary, and it just generated a lot of interest among the people on the summit. So we exchanged social media, and then it sort of snowballed and took on a life of its own, where this other couple women that were hiking were prolific thru hiker Instagrammers, and they started posting about her. And so anyway, we kind of somewhat reluctantly created a public Instagram account for Superheroes Adventures, because people want to know about it. Like, they're very interested in it. And so we could start getting negative feedback, I guess. But most of the time people have been,
it's the internet. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's
don't read the comments. But people are almost urging for more superhero content. I mean, it sounds stupid, but she's kind of become like a little rock star. And the funny thing is we were going through Crabtree Meadow toward Mount Whitney, and every single person was, how old are you? How old are you? And so she's so, I'm six. And like, you know, just saying the same thing over and over and over again. Right. And she said, Mommy, I don't want to get too famous. And I said, oh, I don't think you will. They don't actually know who you are. They just think it's cool that you're on the trail. And she goes, if I was too famous, I would have to like do all these reports and be on TV all the time. And I just don't think I want to do that. And so I promised her that she wouldn't be too famous, but
that's awesome. That's awesome. She's well on her way to being a wilderness social media influencer.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll take some free gear if any of the companies out there want to pass it our way, but I'll do some sponsor posts. But no, I'm kidding. That's definitely not our thing. But
there you go. I mean, she's going to be, she's growing up. I mean, so her size is changing. You're going to need new gear all the time. We
do. But there. Again, you know, that's half the fun, right? To research the gear and
buy new stuff.
Because, you know, I think one thing that I tell parents a lot is that think about how excited you as, you know, an adult hiker get when you have really good gear, right? You get excited and it helps you perform better. And then a lot of times you see kids and they're like in some plastic shoes and, you know, cotton and all the things that we would never do.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to make this little person do all this hiking, like get them some good stuff.
Well, you got to set them up for success. Like don't send them out there in like jelly sandals and whatever and expect them to have a good trip. So
right. and they
careful.
Do grow.
That almost sounds like a pro tip. We're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But they grow out of it.
That's a pro tip.
Which means, you know, it's like you don't want to buy it new, but it also means you can get great deals used. Mm-hmm. So it can be done.
That's right. So what is next for the Broughs and Superhero? What are the next adventures?
I have a spreadsheet. You want to see it?
He always keeps a running list. He actually thinks that she is going to ask to do the JMT.
Well,
she already wants.
She asked to do. She asked to yo-yo the PCT. And so you better find a friend to do that for you.
She's going to be asking to do the JMT in the next couple of years, but we're going to have to get her pack weight up because we're going to have to get ours down to carry that. But I would say we're going to do, what section of the PCT is that?
Okay.
Section K, which is Echo Lakes to Donner Summit. That was actually the trip that we were supposed to do this summer, but fires made that impossible. And it's actually not looking great for that area right now. It's all on fire. But if that's good next summer, I think that would be our next section of the PCT that we'd tackle.
So are you guys section hiking the PCT?
Not officially. We're just doing very little. I don't want to put anything out there.
She doesn't want to commit.
You don't want to speak it into existence?
No, because it'll end up on a spreadsheet and then I'll feel like I have to do it. So we're just very little. We both have very full-time jobs and can't live in a van and travel the world hiking. So we're going to keep our section hiking goals like real small.
Yeah. So one thing I'm working on her is to start entering the lottery for the Wonderland Trail.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that would be something that she could probably handle. And, you know, I think the average is something like 3 attempts before you actually get a decent permit. So I figure, you know, we can start entering that lottery. So those are 2 things that are kind of on the radar at the moment.
Yeah.
I've heard lots of great things about the Wonderland Trail.
We do have too. And most of our backpacking experience has been in California. So there's a lot of places out there that I'd like to do. Sure. And once we get through COVID, I mean, I mentioned before we did part of the Tour de Mont Blanc when she was 3. Mm-hmm. I'd love to get back to Europe and do more trips in Europe. They know how to do it. They have hut-to-hut hiking with wine and cheese and hot chocolate and
with pubs.
Yeah, I mean, they really do it right. So I want to go back to Europe and hike, but we got to get through pandemic first. Yeah. So
we have some real good friends that live in the mountains above Denver, and so I think, you know, doing some more Rocky Mountain stuff would be good too.
Yeah, I'd like to get her doing some of the 14ers. We see a lot of kids doing them, and I think she would like that.
She loved being on top of Whitney.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Fantastic. All right. You guys ready for a top 5 list?
Sure. Fire away.
Right. Top 5.
Do we get to be on a team, or are we doing
it 5
independently?
It's going to be together because it's about superhero. Top 5 moments on the trail with superhero.
Oh, moments
that kind of struck your fancy, or you look back on it and say, oh, that was an epic moment.
All right. You go first.
I think, the every single time, there's a kind of endpoint, either, summiting, a mountain or a pass or getting to the end. Those are always special. Jennifer mentioned, when she got to the top of Glen Pass, she goes, that wasn't that hard. But one thing that's becoming a tradition is she does this jumping high five thing at the end of every trail. And so it's something that, I get to enjoy because I'm almost always on the camera. And so I get to hand the camera off, and it's kind of the official end of the hike. So any of those kind of jumping high fives, and she knows that that's the thing we do. And so that's always kind of a father-daughter thing that I enjoy.
Another thing that we do, Maggie and I do, we find a lake and we do mermaid hair, which is where you flip your head forward, get your hair soaked, and then flip it back. And he takes a picture as your hair is kind of flying with the thing through the water with the droplets coming off of you. And so she looks forward to doing the jumping high five with daddy and the mermaid hair with mommy. So that's become a thing. And you want to do the third one?
So a big one, and this is a trip we haven't talked about. When she was 3, we did a one-nighter in Lake Aloha, which is right next to Echo Lakes in Tahoe. Okay. And this was, I think it's 7 miles each way, something like that. And so she hiked, I think, 4 miles, and then we carried her for 3 and went out just for the one night. And we were, brushing teeth and kind of doing the whole bedtime routine. And, I start to see, this, we're going to have a great star night, right? But still twilight. And I tell her, like, just wait, we're going to see some stars. And we go into the tent and we tell stories, sing songs, whatever it is that we do. And we waited for it to get real dark. And I pulled her out of the tent, had her close her eyes, sat her on a rock, and we laid down, and just, the whole Milky Way just opened up. And from that moment on, she has been absolutely obsessed with space. And so I feel like every kid has their thing that they can name every single dinosaur, right, every single whatever. For her, it's space. And so she can tell you all about, the moons of Jupiter and, all sorts of random space stuff. And again, as a scientist engineer, I get to geek out on, her understanding, the concept of gravity and all sorts of things. So I think, one fun thing for me is being able to see how it has led to other interests, how backpacking has led to other.
The next one is summiting Mount Whitney right after Jack, the quadriplegic. Everyone was crying. I was crying. I mean, it was just such a cool moment. There was also a guy up there doing his 50th Mount Whitney summit. It was just such a neat time on the summit, and one of those like trail magic times. And I have to cheat and tie in, because you guys are involved in this. That day we started at 4:30 in the morning. It was dark. We were coming up from Guitar Lake up to Trail Crest, and when you're hiking in the dark with headlamps, you don't really know how much farther you have to go. So you just go and you go, and we were cranking it. I mean, we were moving. Yeah. And so, but the sun started to rise, and I knew, because I had done it before, that we weren't at Trail Crest yet. And I was like, oh, I'm really tired. I'm really breathing hard. And I didn't want to discourage Maggie, so trying to be super positive, but I was feeling it. And we come around the corner, and there's a row of tents up there right below Trail Crest. I was like, who slept up there? And we hear, hey, superhero, you can do it. And a round of applause from your group. And I just stopped in my tracks, grabbed out my phone to record it because it's one of those trail magic kind of moments where you're just like, that is so cool. Not only that you guys remembered us and, did that, but like we thought I didn't know where you had gone. Once you pass people on the trail, you don't think you ever see them again. And so then it just like came back full circle. And yeah, that was one of the most touching things that's ever happened in my life. But yeah, on the trail.
And as an addendum, you guys unknowingly gave her the trail name Superhero the second time.
All right, we'll make that number 5. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
So getting renamed Superhero by your group without knowing that was her trail name.
So perfect. So cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Hey guys, you know where we are?
Where
are we?
We are at that time of the episode where I turn to you and ask you for your pro tip insight of the week. What little nugget of wisdom can you share with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better? And I am game for one pro tip from each of you.
You want to go first?
Do you have one?
You go first. I'm trying to narrow it down.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I think, a lot of what we're talking about is, hiking with kids. So I'll be specific to that.
Okay.
I think the tip I would give for really anything with kids doing something new, but specifically with backpacking, is painting a positive image of what they're about to do. I think so much about a kid's reluctance is fear, and not necessarily the physical challenge, but it's fear of the unknown. So, talking to them in very excited, positive terms, and then showing them, often on YouTube or whatever, other people doing it, and it really lowers the barrier for kids about anything. And we've done this with backpacking, but with skiing or with whatever. So I would say be positive and show them, give them a way to visualize themselves doing it in a excited, positive way.
Yeah, it sounds weird to say it this way, but big physical activities have such a mental aspect to them. I mean, you have to have the right mindset. Your expectations are everything on how well you perform out there. So that's a fantastic pro tip. Thank you, Brandon.
And I'm going to tie mine back to the pro tip I started to give earlier, which is invest in good gear for the whole family. And I'm not saying that it has to be expensive gear, but it has to be tailored to the activity. I don't know if he mentioned that he hiked in Alaska in gardening boots.
Oh yeah, I missed that detail.
Because they didn't know any better.
Well, that's what we were told.
And it really sets you up. I mean, you're going to have a great trip or you're going to have a terrible trip. Gardening boots are in the terrible trip. And for kids, people think they don't need the good gear. They grow out of it too fast. But man, if you put a kid out there in plastic Paw Patrol shoes, they're going to be hating life. And so there's a ton of great used kid outdoor gear sites on Facebook and the like, because kids grow out of things so fast. They just hand them down. And there's hand-me-down groups in the thru hiking community for kids, where you can really get some good stuff. So invest in good gear. It can be used. It can be, we're big REI attic sale, garage sale shoppers. That's where we got her the hiking backpack that we carried her hundreds of miles in. So you don't always have to spend a lot of money, but you need to get the right gear for what you're about to approach.
So true. So important. So there you have it. That's it. This episode is just about in the books. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with the Broughs, and I want to thank them for joining us this week. Guys, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
So as we mentioned, we have a new Instagram account. It is Adventure Family 3, the number 3. And I believe that is also the name of our YouTube page. And there's a link to our YouTube page on our Instagram account. So that's Adventure Family 3. And that is where you can keep up with Superhero.
All right. I'm going to follow that account as soon as we're done here.
Yeah.
Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I say TikTok reluctantly because my daughter got me on that. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. Guys, I'm also looking to you to share your recommendation for some kind of adventure media, some kind of book, movie, documentary, something that's going to keep our listeners connected to the outdoor adventure experience. What do you have for us?
You want to go?
So I'll give you one for adults and one for kids.
Okay.
So a book that I loved right before we did the Inca Trail was Turn Right at Machu Picchu. And it's basically told in 3 different ways. One is kind of the history of the building of Machu Picchu. The second is the discovery of it. And the third is kind of real time. And I love, obviously I like research. I love learning about a place right before I go to it. And so I thought that was so cool. And so I thought that's probably one you haven't heard recommended.
That's great. Yeah. Very good. We'll have to update our website to include that recommendation. Very good.
There you go. And then for kids, there's lots of really good outdoors books for kids at REI and other places. But one that we recently picked up was The Boy Who Spoke to the Earth. It is beautiful and it's really, really cool. And it's fun to read with superhero.
Nice. Okay.
And I probably offend half your guests and your listeners, but I'm
I hear it coming.
I really am anti the new trend of anyone who steps on the trail writes a book about how they found themselves. And so I read them all like 10 years ago, the ones that existed. And then if I'm going to read one now, it has to be something really unique and really different, because I really just, how many times can you read about my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to, so I stepped out on the AT, headed north, and I didn't know what I was doing, and now
it's a metaphor for.
I know, and now I found myself. Okay, sorry everyone that wrote that book that has been on this podcast, but
you get a lot of thumbs down.
Yeah, sorry about Heather Anderson, Anish, the FKT from the PCT. I saw that her AT book is on your list of recommendations, but I think Thirst, her PCT book, is so fascinating because just the physical transformation that she goes through hiking as many miles as she does, and trying to set the FKT really sets her apart from all the feel good, like I found myself, because she is just kicking butt every day. I mean, so that was super fascinating for me. She and another ultramarathoner, Rory Bossio, are some of our kind of idols in the community. And so I really look up to her and respect her. And I don't count her in the group of people who wrote a book after hiking for 5 minutes. So I think that's a good one. It's called Thirst.
Jennifer, I thought you were going a different direction. I thought you were going to say Wild.
No,
Wild is good too.
I mean, well, I gotta give her credit because she inspired me, but it's really gotten pretty cliche to say that. So you lose some cred when you say that.
And before we wrap things up, I've got one more segment for you called "What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Me About?" What did I miss?
I know one for you.
What?
So when we did the John Muir Trail, Jennifer was not that experienced at the time, the earplugs and all that. And so one thing that we did to make her feel a little bit more secure was, I think we got in like the Walmart baby section, this little monkey, and she named it, and you'll appreciate this.
Yeah. I named it Crazy Legs Muir.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little monkey named Crazy Legs Muir, and it's named Crazy Legs Muir because we also call John Muir MFJM, as in Mother Effing JM, because he's just a really weird dude and like climbs to the top of trees in thunderstorms. And so we refer to him as MFJM with our friends. And then I had Crazy Legs. And then when he came by on the trail and said that guy has the John freaking Muir pod, I was like, I know that, because it kind of all ties back together to which is what, our reference to him. So that's funny.
Yeah.
MFJM in our household.
Yeah.
Nice. That was something that was heard on the trail back in 2015 when Chopper and Buddy and I were out there. We were climbing up I think it was maybe Mather Pass, and Chopper said, John Muir was an a-hole. Basically blaming the trail and the toughness of the trail on him.
Mather will make you do that.
Yeah.
That's a long, steep one.
Yeah, well, that's another reason we were like, yeah, F that guy, because why did he think this was a good idea? Yeah, no, that's so funny because that's what we refer to him too.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family, guys?
Yeah, I do. Our parents.
No, let me say that one more time. I think I screwed that up. So
okay.
That's a wrap from the John Freaking Muir studio. Any shout outs to friends and family, guys?
We do. We want to thank our parents, the grandparents of Superhero, for all the logistical help in getting a kid out into the wilderness and back, and also being so supportive. I know it's probably very scary to have your children and grandchildren out there, but they're very supportive. Kami and Amy were our original backpacking friends and really got us into it. And they have a little girl that they're going to start getting out there with. So we have a family to hike with. And Superhero mentioned them several times in her little appearance. She kept talking about Matt and Maggie. They were two hikers on the High Sierra Trail that we met. And they not only invited us to share their campsite, but they played chess with Maggie on a bear canister one night after dinner, and that really left an impression. So shout out to Matt and Maggie, a brother and sister pair from Southern California.
Yep.
Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, I think just in general, just all the people who have been so kind to Superhero over the years, because she does draw a crowd, and people are really generous with their time and their comments, and that's so encouraging for her. And just kind of to all the parents with little superheroes of their own, shout out to all you guys as you go on your own life discovery journey.
Just don't write a book because I'm not reading it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you're 6 years old and it's 4:30 a.m. and your parents are telling you it's time to start that hike up to Mount Whitney. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.